Okay, so originally I was going to do a comparison video of three low-cost 360 cameras. You know, they're not that widely used really, but the advantage being that if you use these things on a trip, you can see everything around you. You can use them for VR experiences and things of that sort. So a couple of years ago, I purchased the Vivitar 988 HD 360 camera, which turned out to be not great. It has all sorts of quirks. There's an app that kind of works for some of the functions, but not all functions. But trying to find two other low cost cameras under $100 was a bit challenging. So I did find one on eBay that I got for about $25. It's some sort of generic 360 camera. No idea who manufactures it, but a couple years ago there were a ton of these on Amazon under generic names, which you can't find anymore on Amazon, but you occasionally stumble upon these generic 360 cameras on eBay. So I purchased one, which got here in a few days from the seller who was in Jersey. So big shout out to him for getting it to me. And then the third camera I found was the Polaroid ID360, which I got for $45. Now, if you look online, the Polaroid ID360 is available from Walmart, Amazon, Beach Camera, Bidij, and a few others. So it's widely available for between $49 and $59 on average. If you spend $59.99 on this camera, you're going to get a little VR headset so you can shoot your 360 video and then play back and watch it with these VR glasses or whatever. So the camera arrived, I plugged it in to charge for 24 hours, and I downloaded the app that I needed to use for the camera, and there was a bit of a problem. So when I went to download the app was no longer available on the App Store. So it just indicates that it's not available in my region, which, US and Canada, not available. So it's like, well, okay, can I use something else? So I looked for some other apps, absolutely no luck. Then I wanted to find out who actually manufactured this camera. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. So doing a little research, there was another camera available a couple of years ago called the Rivio R360, which is a dead ringer for this Polaroid ID360. They're the same camera. So I figured, okay, well, there must be an app for that particular camera. And the Rivio R360, the instructions indicate that you should download Catcha 360. So I went to the App Store and got the same message that this app was not available in my region. So, as you might imagine, this is a problem because without the app, you can't configure the camera. So, this particular camera does not have a display on the camera, so you must use the app to make any adjustments. So, I did a bit more digging, and if you look in the packaging indicates that the camera itself was manufactured by Seikar International. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Seikar International owns the Vivitar name. So they make a lot of entry-level, mid-level electronics, and they just slap the Vivitar name on it. So what you're getting from Vivitar is not something you would have gotten from Vivitar, let's say, 25 or 30 years ago. Once Seikar acquired the name, it was kind of like what happened to Polaroid. They weren't making anything anymore. They were just slapping the name on it. So, so now I'm like, okay, great. So it's Seikar. Great. So the Vivitar 360 camera was also manufactured by Seikar. So I do a bit more searching. I go to Polaroid, and Polaroid says, if you're looking for support for your Polaroid 360 camera, send an email to Polaroid at saycar.com or call this 877 number, which is what I did. Now, I really wasn't expecting a lot, and I get a response from Saycar indicating that, yeah, they don't have an app for this camera at this time, but they will update as needed in the future. So there's no app for this camera. So you have a camera without a display, and it's impossible to configure it for use. Now, you can record without it, but you have absolutely no control over the camera. You just hit record, and then you have to download have to transfer the files from the camera to the computer. But again, you can't control any aspect of this camera. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Polaroid these days, Polaroid, for years, they had all sorts of problems, and eventually they were just licensing their name. A few years back, someone purchased the company. There's the Impossible Project, and over the past several years, they've gotten back to their core business, which is instant film and, instant cameras. I have a Polaroid camera from almost 30 years ago that still works to this day. And I bought a new one a couple years ago, and I was excited to see that, they still work the way they used to. It's pretty much the same thing over the past, however many decades. It's still a Polaroid camera. So even though they're back to their core business, they still allow their name, they license their name to different manufacturers. So you may see things with the Polaroid name, but Polaroid did not actually make any of those products. They just provided their name. So this camera is not a Polaroid camera. So there's no tech support from Polaroid for this particular camera. So you're kind of stuck. You have to rely on Saycar, and Saycar is saying, we made it, but there's no app for it. So what does this mean for you? This basically means you should not buy this camera. There is no tech support for it. There is no user support for it. Despite the fact that it seems to be available everywhere for purchase, it's essentially an orphan piece of equipment. So there's a camera, and you can record with it, but there's absolutely no tech support, and there's no app to configure the camera. So whatever you do, do not buy this camera. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and click for notifications. Thanks for watching, and leave your comments below.